Dig.
And I'm Hannah Hampton, and you're listening to HR After Hours.
Well, hello and welcome to HR After Hours podcast, the only HR podcast voted most likely to end up naked on a hotel rooftop. Hannah Hampton, my sister from another mister.
Oh my gosh.
How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can't complain. I mean, I could, but who'd want to hear that? That's not fun.
Exactly. We don't want to sit here and complain.
No,
So
we
we'll
got to
just
put positivity out there. That's what
yes.
makes the world go round. How about you?
Just celebrated a birthday, and that was a lot of fun. And you
Good
know what?
times.
I celebrate the aging process because I feel like it's better than the alternative, and we have to embrace aging and getting older. So I am okay with it.
Well, happy belated birthday, and
Thank you.
let's be honest, you look awesome for your age.
Thank you so much. That's
I
very
guess I
sweet of
could have
you.
just said, "You look awesome, Hannah." That's what I meant, but
You're so funny. No, I appreciate that. I will take it. I will take it. And for our listeners, I did get a happy birthday on the actual birthday from my podcasting partner, so don't worry, it wasn't forgotten. You know, Mick is a good friend.
I'm blushing if you can hear that. We like to challenge things by not even picking our topic until usually within 30 minutes before we start recording. You found what I would consider just a wealth of
Yes.
information. Kind of bring everyone up to speed on what you came across.
It's a dotted line to HR. I certainly can't say this is like an HR topic, but it's more a topic just about working in corporate America and the business world, dealing with that. So now something that I'm fascinated by but don't buy into is conspiracy theories. I love reading about them. I sometimes will go into weird little rabbit holes on Reddit. But again, I want to stress to our listeners, I'm not somebody who just buys into everything I read about. I certainly like to critically think about things, do additional digging and learning before making any types of decisions. But I have to say, sometimes reading about, hearing about, learning about conspiracy theories is so fascinating to me. So there are definitely lots of conspiracy theories about capitalism, corporate America, and just the working world. So I found a study that was done about conspiracy theories in corporate America. And what was great from the article, from the study, was they compiled a really great list of things that they asked people if they believed or not. So I thought it would be really fun for us to talk about some of these things and put our 2 cents in them. Now, I'm not going to say any of this is scientific, but it's more about our thoughts, what we think, what we've experienced, and what we know. And I thought it'd be a really fun conversation for us.
No, I like it. And this is when we say conspiracy theory, it's almost like the article's a little bit of a stretch using that terminology, but we're not talking about the gray lizard people that live underground or Illuminati driven or
Right.
about Masons. I would almost call these conspiracy theories some beliefs people have about business in America as a whole. Let's be
Beliefs
honest.
Beliefs is a better one because it is, some of these are like, I could see people being like, yeah, I totally believe that, versus like, oh, it's a conspiracy. So yeah.
At the same time, conspiracy theories is going to draw more clicks here. So we're going to go with conspiracy theories
I love it.
and see if we can get a couple extra listens. This list on this study is great. And we're going to actually familiarize ourselves with this study more so we can actually talk about the study down the road. This list that they gave, that I believe they maybe put in a questionnaire format to get a feel for people's beliefs or buy into these conspiracy theories. We found very early in the list 3 or 4 that we can kind of work together in one episode. So I'm going to stop talking about it and let you take the lead.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip through this because there's a couple that I'm like, I just don't think that they're worth talking about. But I'm gonna start with number 2 on the list. The statement that was asked to people to think about if they believe is a conspiracy theory is, most companies do not mind breaking the law, they just see fines and lawsuits as the cost of doing business. Mick, what do you think about that?
I don't think that's a big stretch to believe that. I had a business professor, and how you have certain things that just always resonate with you. And there's just some things that people teach you or just say in a conversation, your brain just locks on when he started discussing opportunity cost versus fiscal cost. I think this is an opportunity cost type of thing. Can we take a couple misdemeanors and some fines to grow our business or try something in a
Yeah.
new direction. Because if it's successful, it could generate millions. Oh, absolutely. Businesses make that decision.
I mean, and I feel like this was a part of Fight Club where, I can't talk about it verbatim, but it was just the whole like airlines and like the cost to pay off people after a crash versus updating the safety. And now again, I feel like that goes into the conspiracy theory, but certainly I feel
Agreed.
like companies definitely, I mean, sometimes there are just fines that are worth paying for versus making these fundamental changes. Would I call it a conspiracy? No, because I feel like this is easily believable. It's like, yeah, and I do feel like there's probably companies out there who have worked into their budget fines and other things that they know they're going to have to deal with because of how they choose to do business. I don't know. I just feel like this one is so easily believable that I couldn't even call it too much of a conspiracy.
Definitely. And the thing is, it's going to lead into the next one, which I think they go hand in hand.
Yes. So number 3 on the list is most businesses are interested in making profits than in serving consumers. We'll give that a 5 does on the duh list. Because that's a reason that people do businesses to make money and living in a capitalistic society, the more the better when it comes to profits, when it comes to making the shareholders happy. I feel like, yeah.
When we were talking about 2, I had something and I was like a kid in class going, oh, call on me. But I stopped myself because I thought it even tied in more with 3. Most businesses are more interested in making profits than in serving consumers. We're talking about you, Boeing. Seriously. When your
Yeah.
own people are afraid to fly on your planes, you're obviously not taking the consumer's
I
safety into
Yes.
consideration.
So there's like that joke saying out there, if it's Boeing, I ain't going. I am not kidding you. I recently took a trip and we had a couple of flights on that trip, and I literally was Googling to see if Boeing's were our flights, and we ended up flying Delta and it was Airbus. So I was like, yeah, that's terrifying to think that people who build the airplanes do not want to fly on their own airplanes. That tells you something. Their interest is getting those airplanes out, getting them sold, getting them in the air, whether or not the door is going to stay on when it's up 30,000 feet, which is terrifying. And you think about, okay, taking a step back and you think about how many flights happen daily. Okay. And of course, any major event that happens makes the news because it's a major event. So is the likelihood of it happening super high? No, I live in reality. I know it's safer to be in an airplane than in a car. When you're 30,000 feet in the air, when something like that happens, you have no control. And you are stuck sitting on that flight, praying for your life, being like, I promise I'll be different if I survive this.
The
I,
good old Those are called foxhole prayers, ladies and
yes.
gentlemen.
I mean, you buy a product where like maybe it's a brand that you've been loyal to for many years and you've been buying it for a long time, and you see, oh my gosh, they changed the packaging or they have tweaked the product so there's less of the good stuff and more of the filler. It just makes you wonder, like, what else are they doing behind the scenes? And then it just makes me want to patron small companies, small like local places that are going to be more honest, are going to do these things that are better for their customers because they know they have to work really hard to hold on to every customer they have versus making their shareholders happy. So I don't know. Again, can't call these really too much conspiracy theories because I kind of believe them.
Agreed, agreed. And this one is kind of a twofold one because actually it goes into the things we've discussed in the past where companies are much more interested in making profits than, the well-being of their own team members and associates. But I definitely think
Yeah.
those things tend to tie in. If you find a company that doesn't care about its consumers, that's a company that doesn't care about its people
That is
99.9%
so
of the
true.
time.
I think that's a really great call out because there's examples out there of companies that really are doing the right thing and will put their money where their mouth is. And I'm gonna give 2 examples, but I'm gonna give one that I haven't talked to you about. I wish I could remember. I can't remember the hotel chain, but it's a high, 4 or 5-star hotel chain. Each employee has basically a budget to delight a customer. So it's like making their day, maybe sending something to their room, helping them have a really great experience. So you think about that, you are paying more money. So it kind of makes you take a step back and you think about our society right now of fast fashion, of disposable goods. If you take a step back and you spend a little bit more, I feel like you're going to get more times 10. When you're looking at quality, when you're looking at those pieces. But the problem is we live in a world where most people can't afford the premium items. So they are forced to do the fast fashion. You think about kind of that old saying about buying a $50 pair of work boots or a $100 pair of work boots, but the $100 pair is going to last you 5 seasons. And the $50 you have to replace every season, but not everybody has $100 to drop. So once a year, they're spending $50 on shoes. And in the long run, they're spending $500 versus that $100 on the pair that's going to last them the 5 years or, whatever it might be. And it's just because a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So they can't afford to spend that extra money on the higher quality items. So they have to replace things. But you think about that, like there's the conspiracy about like the kill switch on your iPhone, that eventually it's just going to stop working. So you're forced to buy a new one versus, I think about my grandmother had the same vacuum cleaner for like 35 years. In what world do vacuum cleaners last 35 years? They don't. Like you have to replace them every 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be. So businesses are built to make as much money as possible, whether or not they're doing what's best for the environment, for the people, for their employees. It's a lot.
That is something that we've talked a lot about, sustainability in business
Mm-hmm.
practices and even people practices, and the difference between something that is made to be sustainable versus something that is, like you said, fast fashion, something to be, thrown away,
I
which is
do
how,
not do fast fashion anymore. I
yeah.
used to, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine and they sent me a picture from like 20 years ago and I was cracking up because I would remember the shirt I was wearing. And I'm like, oh, it's a place I don't shop anymore because it's fast fashion. I'm like, I loved that shirt, but spending $12 on a shirt that's going to wear out after 5 washes just doesn't make sense. I want something that's going to last me years. I want something that's going to, be comfortable, look good, and last many years, not fall apart and look like garbage after the 5th time you wash it. That just is so bad for the environment. I read something about how like we've got enough clothes out there in the world to clothe people for like hundreds of years because of the fast fashion. And you think about influencers and, which are paid by companies to promote their products. I can't trust what I see on the internet because it's people who are getting paid to tell you this product's great. I love it. It's so high quality when it probably isn't.
I have 2 quick things for that. And anyone that's
Yeah.
not familiar with the waste and the poor people practices associated with fast fashion, there is
Mm-hmm.
a good little documentary on Hulu about the company Shein. Anyone that's even considered it, you watch this doc and you more than likely won't want to ever
Right.
utilize that. Here's the whole philosophy on fast fashion where I can quickly say it's ethically wrong. You talked about using that $50 pair of work boots versus the $100 pair of work boots.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of that $50 pair of work boots has to be so inferior to the $100 pair that you're not even getting a $50 pair, because something that costs half as much as a quality item, it should be half as good, right? So it should last
Right.
5 years versus one if the other one lasts 10 years. So if it's made with such poor products and quality that it only makes it one season, then that tells you not only are they making a inferior product, but they're making it very cheaply. The markup is way higher than it should be because those $50 boots probably cost them less than 10 to make, where
Mm-hmm.
most of the time a higher quality item, the markup is not 500%. That is like the epitome of everything that's wrong with some business cultures.
And I think that's a really great call out, and it has a lot to do with like a culture where you think about like CEOs that are only focused on lining their pocket, making sure their shareholders are happy. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there like that, but there's definitely stories that are on the other side of the coin where companies have done the right thing and it has cost them financially. In the long run, it's probably better because their reputations are higher. Like people are like, I trust that company. So certainly they reap the rewards, but it does You really do want to look for the companies that are actually doing the right thing. And that, makes me think of, but in the early 80s, the Tylenol murders, where there was poisoned Tylenol containers that were out in the world and people died. What had happened was the company jumped into action immediately and decided to do what was best, not for them financially, do what was best for their customers. And they recalled all the products because they didn't want anybody else to be harmed, which that is remarkable because you think about it, like sometimes companies will be like, well, how many is it? How much would it cost to get sued or whatever it might be? But they came out and said, we're recalling everything. And not only are we recalling the products, but we're going to change the way that we make our packaging. We're going to make it safer for our customers because their company values aligned with caring for and doing what was right for the consumer first. That's a story that's 40 plus years old, but it's still studied today as what companies should do, changing the fabric of how business is done to make sure that the consumer is safe and that there are less chances of tampering, less chances of issues and things of that nature. Because ultimately, I don't know the ins and outs, and I should have just spent some time researching this. I don't believe it, it wasn't a manufacturing error. It was somebody who actually tampered it and put poison into these Tylenol capsules. So it wasn't even something the company had done wrong, but they didn't want to chance anything by doing that recall, rethinking how they package the product, how they keep people safe. And I love that story. And that makes me feel like, okay, this is a company that you can trust. That's probably another reason that Tylenol is still a name we all know and we all see on the shelves. It's a company you can trust will do the right thing for the consumer.
There's absolutely a few good things here. Down the list, number 6 is manufacturers do not care about consumers once they have bought the product. Well, here's one where it's not true. So with the Tylenol scare, they didn't happen all at once. As the investigation took place, what's happening in these mysterious deaths, it's like, okay, they've all come from drugstores. Oh, okay, every person did purchase Tylenol. First, it looked like maybe there was something wrong with Tylenol. Then they quickly realized, no, these were tampered with. So at that point, Tylenol could have gone from being completely petrified, like, oh my gosh, what are we not aware of? What error did we make? To quick relief of, oh, phew, it's not our fault. Someone's tampering with our product. And they could have said, not my monkey, not my circus, right there. They could have walked away and said, someone's tampering with our product. It's not a Tylenol problem. There's a psycho out there. They just happen to be using Tylenol bottles, but they didn't. They did the right thing.
They did the right thing. They were swift and they were quick in their actions. They communicated, told people about it, and took the right steps. And I feel like they kind of set the example of what you should do in a crisis. Because let's get real, like there's always going to be psychotic people in there who just thrive off of chaos. I feel like that companies should always use that as a crisis management framework because that was the right thing to do. And I just wish more companies would take a step back and be like, yes, okay, we are here to make money, but we're also here to do good in the world, especially with the newer generations that are a little more focused on caring for each other. I hate to say it, but they want to put good in the world. So I have a lot of hope that companies will become less focused on just the profit. Of course, like businesses have to be profitable in order to survive. You can really find that balance where you're making good money, but you're also paying everybody, not just your CEO, but you're paying everybody fairly, having fair prices out there. I think about, we're in this crazy kind of election season where people are always trying to throw candidates under the bus and they're trying to blame the government on the cost of goods. But it's like ultimately in capitalism, it's not the government that's setting the prices, it's companies. And if you really take a look at it, company profits are not dipping, they're rising, but we are paying more for those products so that they can line their pockets with more money. But it's really easy for conspiracy theorists to point fingers at a candidate, at the government, at whatever. But I'm really hoping that as these newer generations become the leaders in the companies, that we're going to go back to that balance of, yes, we're here to make money, but we're also here to be fair. And that's my hope.
That's absolutely everything that you and I have been building up to in the last year.
Mm.
There's an underlying theme to most of what we do, and we put a heavy front end focus on just best people practices. And that's always going to be something that's very important to us. But then as we broaden our scope, practicality in business decisions, determining what is a balance of spending money to do the right thing, paying our
Mm-hmm.
people correctly, and still making respectable earnings, posting profits. At some point, when you learn how much is enough and you set very responsible goals in your profits and your people practices, and just try to make it all about what Tylenol did, leading the change to do the right thing. Was all their decision making just kumbaya, hippie, feel good, love everyone, selfless acts? No, they had damage control. And that's another thing that sometimes is wrong with our society is people were looking for someone to blame, and Tylenol was taking all the hit for something that a messed up individual was out there doing, someone that had psychological issues. They had to find a way to rebrand their product or make the consumer feel safe about something, even though they never did anything wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
there was some protecting the brand. They could have just said, hey, look, everyone, we could just advertise about how this wasn't our fault. The acts of one person does not reflect this company, but instead they led the change to
Yes.
repackaging, tamper proofing, which is now everywhere. People had to follow them. When you make such a positive lead that your competitors have to follow the lead of spending more money to make the product safer, they get a yearly kudos for the rest of their existence, as far as I'm concerned, for that part alone.
Yeah.
But then piggybacking on what you're saying is if we start making sure that our leaders understand the importance of just doing the right thing in all these practices and all your business affairs, just like as a human being, if you put out positivity and gratitude, the world is a much better place. The same could be applied to business practices.
Yes. Yes.
And that's going to be a reoccurring theme, I'm sure, for at least months to come. That's what we're about. It's not just putting the human back in human resources. That was stage one, which we spent years focusing
We sure
on.
did. Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about just do the right thing and lead the change.
Yes. Oh, I love it. That's our theme. That's our theme. Woohoo!
Because personally and professionally, if you subscribe to that
Mhm.
practice or that philosophy, you're a part of making things better. If your fundamental core in your business philosophies is based on doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing, you'll be a successful business and you'll be a successful person.
Yeah, let's continue to put good out in the universe. So thanks so much. I enjoyed this conversation.
Have a great day.
You too.